What is going on, everybody? My name is Nemo Nobody, and welcome to Domain Legion. Today, I'm joined by Games Past Their Prime,
Hi.
Ponji Ninja,
Hi, guys.
Roman, the Golden Candidate,
What's crack-a-lackin'?
Styx,
Hey, how's it going, guys?
and yours truly. Today, we will be talking about the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, what they will be, what they are theorized to be, and, what we think of them so far. They're still a little bit down the road, but we can still have our opinions. So, who wants to start this off?
Well, frankly, I think the very first thing we should look at is we can't directly compare the Series X to the PS5. We basically have very little knowledge of what's going to be in the PS5, so it's only going to be speculation. If we want to, we can take a look at the Series X and actually see what is already there and kind of compare the idea of what the PS5 probably is going with, since they typically have similar architectures,
Mm-hmm.
Well, if we're going to talk architecture, let's not ignore the giant behemoth the Xbox Series X is.
Well, it's actually, I don't think it's nearly as big as people think it's going to be. Let's be honest. It
looks very large. It is at least double a disc.
Yeah, they're getting closer and closer to like a mini PC kind of thing.
It's basic. Yeah, I was going to say, it's basically like if you've seen online all those mini PCs that you can buy, it looks like one of those. It looks like literally a mini PC. And I have no problem with that, because personally, I've always gone I want more power out of my system. So if it happens to be a little bit bigger, I can still fit room for it. It's not a big deal.
Plus bigger, you're looking at the potential of a better cooling system in that
too.
Case.
100%. Especially if they have as big of fans as it looks like potentially could be in there, because potentially it looks like it's supposed to be standing up straight. You have the feet on the floor, and you have the air pulling in from the bottom and blowing out the top. If you have big 120 millimeter fans or even 140 millimeter fans on both ends, you have a lot of cooling going through there. The only way you could get the same amount of cooling or even better cooling is by doing liquid cooling, which I think would cost too much. I would imagine too much for them to want to do that. It would bring the price too high, right?
Oh, most definitely.
If someone told me there was a liquid in my game console, I'd be a little bit worried.
Yeah.
Roman, I have liquid in my computer, yet here I am.
Though I think they're flirting with a bit of overlap between, the kind of gamers that are more hardcore and they want that intense performance,
exactly,
and the more casual gamers that make up a huge chunk of like the TV gaming console market.
Yeah.
So I feel like they might kind of lose to PlayStation if they focus too hard on hardcore gamers, because they already own PCs, most of them.
And here's where we talk into them having the Series S, or supposedly a Series S, or another console that's going to be a little weaker. So they have the one that's going to gear directly to hardcore gamers, like a PC user base might like. But then they also have the other one that's going to be a little bit weaker of a console, a little bit cheaper. It's going to be easier to get into, and people that just want to play Xbox games will be able to just play Xbox games, right?
I feel like they kind of know only one of them will actually sell that well.
And let's be honest, I think it's going to be funny, because I actually think the Series S will sell the best, if that's what they're going to call it, because it'll be cheaper, it'll be probably easier to get, and the main factor is it's going to be cheaper. Like when you have something that is cheaper, it is more likely to sell more units than the more expensive console.
Yeah, I don't think. Sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to say, speaking of cheaper, the price point is going to be the biggest defining factor, I feel,
100%.
between the two consoles.
Yeah, I don't see someone buying the more expensive version when they know that the games for that console are going to be bottlenecked by the specs of the less expensive version.
Yep.
Yeah, most definitely.
So
I agree to an extent.
If it costs a lot, and let's say you're older than 17, then you're probably going to rather get a little bit more and do a really good PC. And while younger kids, they're probably going to be more inclined to get a Switch or something, because that's where all the fun Nintendo games are.
Well, I think you have a good point there, and you're definitely not wrong. If you have your own job and you make your own money and you don't have a lot of expenses, you will likely save a little bit more of your money to buy the more expensive version. But you also have to consider the people that are, maybe 13, 14, who don't have a job, who still want an Xbox, and their parents are thinking, okay, we'll get them one for Christmas. what's the point of buying the more expensive one? They might not understand the difference between the two, and they'll ask somebody who'll try to explain it to them, and they still won't understand, and they'll just buy the cheaper one. And that's why the cheaper ones almost typically sell more. I mean, even when you look at Nintendo consoles, when you compare, the 3DS or 2DS compared to their new 3DS, I mean, you just look at the other ones, and they just sold more. It's just.
Yeah. Now, obviously, we're looking at it from a North American perspective. Obviously, Japan, we all know, Xbox is never going to do well.
No, it never has. Sony always
PS5 is going to power stomp.
Yeah, and I think even in the next generation, I still think the PS5 will sell more units than the Xbox
which
will.
Also brings up the games. Like, I play a lot of JRPGs and fighting games, so no, I'm not going to be that interested in the Xbox X when I know there's going to be more of those on the Sony system that the Japanese devs like.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if you're like comparing console power, it doesn't matter how powerful a console is if it's just basically a PC and has all the games of a PC. Like console exclusives, that's what wins the war, in my opinion.
Well, that's the interesting thing. Sorry, go ahead, Sticks.
I was just gonna say that's always been a huge thing myself and for people I know. You always pick the console that has your games. Like Final Fantasy VII, the remake's gonna be on PS4, potentially further on PS5. People are gonna get the PS5 because they want to play that game.
Yep.
I actually, to say that, I thought I saw some material during the E3 when they released.
I was about to mention it too.
Where they talked about it being on Xbox as well. So
yes,
but it's going to be a 1-year timed exclusive.
Yeah, it's going to be a 1-year timed exclusive.
Well, they haven't said it'll be on Xbox afterwards, but it will at the very least be exclusive to Sony for a year. It might just go to PC.
It might just go to PC. But if you look at that though, if you can also look at Kingdom Hearts, right? And that did release also on Xbox, right? So I mean,
they finally put the old ones on Xbox, I think like yesterday at the time of recording.
It was
this.
I believe so. So it would not surprise me if they do release it on everything after the 1-year mark.
Although, speaking of which, take a wild guess what single game I bought a PS3 expecting.
Kingdom Hearts 3.
Kingdom Hearts 3.
And you were wrong.
And I was wrong.
But here's the thing. I think the way I'm looking at it is, I think Xbox is smart, at least in the aspect of, I think they know they're not going to be able to compete directly with Sony when it comes to selling units. They just can't. That's why I think they have their cloud and their kind of gaming servers, right? Like the Xbox Pass, right? I think they're hinging on that becoming the big selling point for their system, right? Is basically the idea of renting and borrowing from the cloud versus directly buying, unless you really want to, of course. I think that's where they're competing. They're competing system wise just to keep up with the specs of the PS5. I imagine they're just trying to put out what they think is going to be the best spec wise, so that you won't have too much of a difference between the two. But I think the big push for them is going to be the cloud gaming.
Yeah, I think a lot of companies have looked into that, like with streaming services, because of how big they've gotten. But I also think it's a terrible idea. I mean, Stadia was kind of a dry run when that's all you have. But people just don't want to pay for a pass to like continue playing things that they would rather just own, right? And like it was more intense with Stadia because like you're paying like to continually have access to games you bought at full price. But like it's like I think there's problems with cloud streaming.
Okay, I don't necessarily disagree, but I will say this: I am someone who does actually pay for Xbox Game Pass, and here's the reason why. I have access to probably at any given time 50 different titles, on top of which I only pay, I think it's $15 or $20 a month for it. So I have access to 50 games, and not all of them are great. Like half of them typically are newer games, though. And frankly, once you download them onto your system, even if they're not available anymore, I can still play them. So I think it's worth it in that mind. And while it's not streaming, it's the next closest thing. And so if they're going to go into the streaming space, I think it would be good for instead of directly streaming, like giving you the option to download it like they do now, I think streaming would be a good way to like say test the game, like if you want to like do like an hour demo or something, right? Or if for example the game's downloading and they give you the option, oh, you can play a degraded resolution of the game until your game finally downloads, and then have a seamless transition between the streaming of the game to your downloaded copy. I think there are ways you can do it that would be really well done, and I think that's what they're trying to do.
Well, we know that like PlayStation has talked about, like PlayStation Now is going to continue on into the PS5,
Correct.
and obviously Game Pass is going to continue on to the Series X, and that's going to be a huge thing for them because streaming, for a lot of companies, they believe streaming is the future. Like cloud-based gaming is the future, and they're really going to double down. And like, yeah, Xbox definitely has the PlayStation beat. Like as a PlayStation gamer, I definitely feel that PlayStation Now is definitely lacking compared to the Game Pass.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel if they kind of work more on that, make that a little bit better, I think it would be a great investment. Like they've even really, I think it was last year they took down the price of PlayStation Now, which was like they made a lot of money by doing that.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing about PlayStation Now as well. So obviously we don't know what all the PS5 can play. It might play PS3, we don't know. But right now, PlayStation Now, a lot of it is PS3 games. And I'll care a little bit less about having it. I don't have it right now because my PS3 still works well. But if my PS5 plays PS3 games, then I'm also going to feel even less inclined to have it, which I'd much rather have.
Right now, confirmed it can only play PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 4 VR games.
Yes. Right, but the rumors are going around a lot, so I'm going to humor the idea of it.
Okay. Well, here's the other thing, Roman. I will just say this, is I would not be surprised if the PS5 will be able to play PS3, PS2, and PS1 games. The difference is I think it will emulate them. I do not believe they will be hardware built into the system.
So, here's what I do think. I think there's a higher than 50% chance it will play PS1 and PS2 discs.
Yes.
I do not know about if it would do PS3 discs, and I have very, very low hopes that I can transfer my digital PS3 games to my PS5.
Okay, so this is the interesting part about that, is I believe, if I remember correctly, when I had purchased, I don't know if this is entirely true, but purchased games from the PS3 digitally, I believe did come over to PS4, did they not?
They're very specific titles would, but for example, I've got PS2 games, on PS3, like Persona 3 and 4.
Correct.
Can't play
I
those
had the
on
same
PS4.
thing.
Other examples, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, not even on the store anymore. So anyone who hasn't bought Marvel vs. Capcom 2 can't get it anymore.
Right.
So I can still re-download it whenever I want. But if my PS3 and my account ever somehow dies, I can't play my online MVC2, which, very quickly, I am hoping Capcom does a new MVC collection, but that's another day.
Right. I think I'd be surprised if they don't try to at least make an attempt to bring over. I think the problem they had between the PS3 and PS4 is the PS3 was such unique hardware, and that's why it was so hard to even emulate at all, even for the PS4, like just in general. Like it was just difficult. But I think between the PS4 and the PS5, they're still having a very similar architecture, just more beefed up. Sure, it's a newer chipset, obviously, all around, but I think the base idea is still pretty much the same. So I can't imagine they won't be able to transfer that stuff. But I think they've, in my mind, this is what I would like them to see, obviously, would be them to be able to transfer stuff that even you have on your PS3 that you bought on your PS3 and bring those over as well. I don't know if they can, but I'd love.
When the PS5 comes out, I'm sure I'll take the PS5 home, put everything on there, and then go sell my PS4. I know that much. But can I also get rid of that PS3? It's not even about getting the money for it, because it's probably worth $50, but just my shelf is very cluttered.
No, exactly.
And especially that PS2. I don't know when this thing will die.
If ever. Because here's the thing, the PS2, and the one thing I've learned about owning classic consoles is that when they die, they're extremely cheap to repair yourself if you know what you're doing. And they're really easy to get into as well. Like, I have repaired my own N64. I have repaired an SNES in the past, a friend's SNES. I have repaired my own PS3. They're not that bad. But if you ask me to open up a new Xbox or PS4, hell no. Hell no. Repairing an Xbox 360, I remember having to do that. That thing is awful. Like,
They
just-
purposely did that too, so you'd have to call in and use
Yeah.
your like stuff.
the warranty for it, yeah.
Yeah, but
It's awful. But I'm just saying, like, that's why I like the classic consoles in that way, because they're easy to get into. That's why I would never sell my PS3, because I know I can keep that running for basically ever. You're right about the PS4, though. I might not sell mine right away because I have a PS4 Pro. I might wait for a PS5 Pro if they ever make one before I get rid of that. But I very much would probably never use it after I get the PS5.
see, I don't know too much about the PlayStation 4 and how that works with its online play and like the Game Pass that they had, like the Now, the PSN Now. Or
Just
something.
know it's not very good.
It's not very good. Yeah,
It's
I-
not
Yeah, it's
bad.
not great.
It's better than it was, but it still
better than it
isn't
was.
nearly as good.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at the Xbox Series X, and apparently it actually has more games confirmed for it to be released on like its initial release. It will have
Yes.
7 games ready to go, while the PlayStation 5 has 4 confirmed games ready to go.
Okay,
Yes,
but
I'm
yeah,
gonna say
like,
currently.
but wait,
Currently.
remember Scalebound, right? Like, they're
Oh, yeah.
not the best at follow through,
That's
and
true.
like, I know they bought up a lot of studios, but like, look at what happened to Rare, right? Like, they're not the best at utilizing studios.
They've gotten a lot better, though. Let's be fair, because
Uh,
Rare
we'll switch-
early on was a problem, but Rare now is actually not bad.
Name me something good by Rare besides their collection.
Oof.
Here, let me look at their recent releases, and I'll tell you. I
Banjo
don't
Kazooie
play a
nuts
lot of
and bolts.
Xbox. I'm gonna completely say I don't play a lot of Xbox, so I can't.
Yeah, but Xbox is really good at taking like classic series or like really promising studios and squandering it. Like, they're a little bit like EA with that. Like, they'll just kind of consume studios.
In the
None-
past, a
none
lot of the
the
newer stuff has
confirmed
actually gotten a lot
games
better.
For the Xbox Series X are from Rare Studios.
Yeah, but they haven't been like phenomenal games, right? Like, not really.
Yeah, no, I can't remember a single Rare.
Oh, Sea
game
of Thieves.
that-
They did Sea of Thieves
Yeah, and that turned out pretty badly.
Yeah,
at the start, but if you play it now, it's not nearly as bad as it was. Trust me.
I still can't get.
But
into
that's
it.
not what you want from like a launch title, right? Oh, it's not as bad as it used to be.
They did Killer Instinct, and when that launched, that was actually pretty decent. To be honest with you.
Sure. Yeah, but for all the games that are launching with the Xbox Series X that aren't also on Xbox One or Xbox 360 or the original Xbox, none of those are made by Rare Studios.
Okay, but also fighting games on Xbox? Yeah, no. Tekken 7, Guilty Gear.
Listen,
Street
we
Fighter
won't
5,
talk about fighting
literally.
games on Xbox because that is a travesty.
Yeah,
Also,
but like,
if we want
even
to
their
talk about
shooters,
fighting
though.
games like Tekken, I love Tekken. I don't care what anyone says. Tekken 7 on PS4 was garbage when it released.
Yeah, but
I'm
like
not
garbage.
fighting games are like 5% of the market, right?
Yeah,
I'm more
they're
Street
not
Fighter
a very
MVC,
big
and I'm
portion
still
of the mass
upset
of
about
their-
it.
See, I'm a Tekken guy. I love Tekken.
But like fighting games, like they're awesome, but like they're only 5% of the market. If you're talking about like how successful
yeah,
these
they're
consoles are going
small.
to be, well, then you're looking at the major games, and even with shooters, like Halo, I think it's fair to say it's been going down in the past couple of like releases. It's not what it
has
used to
been.
be at all.
It has
I
been.
definitely think they're
gotta-
banking on
yeah,
Infinite.
Yeah. See,
They're
the
banking hard
thing-
on Infinite. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing though with Halo, it's another one of those things. It's not great for launch because it was when it launched like, oh, this is mediocre. But if I go back and play Halo 5, I'm having a blast now. But when it first launched, I was definitely like down the dumps, like, not so
I've
much.
still played it recently, and I'm still like, it's okay. The thing is, I played since the original Halo, and just when you see the progression from Halo 1 to Halo 2 to Halo 3, you see those big jumps. But then you start seeing, a little bit slower or a little different, or it's going in a direction that you might not necessarily like.
Mhm.
And that's the problem I ran into once I started getting into Halo 5. It's not the
It doesn't
Halo
match
I remember.
the quality of the past games. I'm not going to say
Yeah.
it does. It definitely does not match those.
And that's the problem
But
for me.
I
That's
can
the only
also
reason.
say
Yeah.
that when I play those games, I enjoy them a lot.
Okay,
because
that's
Yeah,
fair.
definitely. But like my concern for Xbox is that it's not better enough than like COD or Battlefield that people will absolutely drop everything to get that system. It's not a
Right.
I need this game. Like for a lot of people, God of War, Spider-Man, those were I need this games. They're so cool.
I was gonna
Right?
say that's the one thing I will say that PlayStation tends to do better than Microsoft, hands down, is that they create unique games that draw you to their system. Like, and even when it's games that are cross-platform or games that are on both systems, they still make games that are interesting that draw you in. Like,
So-
I'm
Yeah.
gonna be honest with you. I'm pretty sure The Last of Us 2 is gonna come out on the PS5. I'm gonna buy a PS5 basically for The Last of Us 2. Like, it just is. I love The Last of Us. That was a great game, and I'm gonna buy a PS5 for the second one.
Yeah.
Or
So-
God of War 2, guaranteed to come out on the
Oh,
PS5.
101. Yeah, 100%. And this is the one thing I do like that Sony's at least doing is, and I don't know if Xbox has said this, but I thought they said that they weren't doing exclusives anymore, which is fine. But what I like about Sony is that they don't necessarily have exclusives in the same way that you used to. But I think the timed exclusive is a good way to grab its immediate attention. Right, you have the timed exclusive where people will say, "I need to buy this game right now. It is that good.
Well, yeah,
I
a lot-
cannot wait."
So,
So it's going
a lot
to
of
sell-
people aren't willing to
I'll give you a
wait.
good example of this
Yeah.
real quick.
It's going to sell consoles, and then they'll release it like a year later. Nintendo is doing this too. They'll sell it like a year or two later on the other systems or on the PC or something, and they'll still get another cash flow down over in that area. Maybe not as big as one, but they'll still get a good cash flow over there. I think it's a very good idea to do it that way.
All right, so I'm going to bring up an example that springs to mind a lot. So let's take Nier Automata, for example.
Yes,
Probably the best game on PS4, in my opinion.
one of the best, anyways. Yeah,
The very best on PS4. Not a debate today. We're talking about consoles. So
I'm still debating you on that, but that's okay.
All right. So a few months later, it got put on PC. The PC
Yep.
version, obviously, it was not developed for PC initially, so it came out a lot buggier than the PS4 version. Which
Dark Souls reminds me of Dark Souls.
right. So let's not kid ourselves that the PS4 version was running that well on launch. But the thing is, when they have the time exclusives, that means that the developers are also probably developing the game with that structure in mind,
Hmm.
which has in the past led to other versions not performing as well.
Not necessarily, and here's my argument for that.
Well, I'm
Is
not saying every time. I'm just giving
well,
a
yeah, and
concrete example.
Yeah,
yes,
well,
and I'm throwing my hands up here, but this is the way I personally see it and how they should do it, which is they release the game on the console that they wish to, whatever side it is, Microsoft, Sony, and then when they decide to port over, if they have that year timed exclusives, because Nier Automata, I think you like you said that was only a couple months, right? So it
Well,
wasn't.
a couple of months until PC. They didn't plan to
Yeah.
put it on Xbox until like a year and a half later.
Yeah. If you do like a year timed exclusive or even 6 months, that gives you enough time to release the core one that you want in a good stable condition. And then you take that port. And in theory, and I know this is definitely not always true, but in theory you now have 6 months or a year to now fix the ports rather than trying to work on 4 games at once essentially. You only work on the one, and then when that's done, now you can start focusing all your attention on the port. Right.
Yeah, and I'm probably about to say the absolute worst example I could use in 2020. But like Sonic Heroes, the GameCube
Oh.
version was obviously the best
Yeah.
version.
Yes.
And then the PS2 version was a bit worse, with the Xbox version about equal. And then the PC version was just, ugh.
Trash. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's my point.
Mind you, that is probably the worst example in 2020.
Yeah, it's a bad example. It's not that bad of an example. The thing is, when you look at consoles like that, though, it is true. Especially with like when you're trying to design from the PS3 to the Xbox 360, that was a pain because they were so different. Now,
Oh yeah, because like Bayonetta, which came out a lot better on Xbox, and then there's other games that came out better on PS3, like Final
Yeah.
Fantasy 13.
So I think the difference here, though, is I think PS5 and Xbox Series X are going to have, from my understanding and from what we've sort of rumored seen, going to use very similar chipsets. They're going to be very similar consoles, so it should be, in theory, not that difficult to program for both if you wanted to. The difference is typically actually PC. PC is actually the hard one to program for because you have such a wide range of variables of different types of computers and parts that you might be trying to attempt to get to work. That one's really difficult. That's why PC ports always take so much longer because they're just so much harder
Optimization.
to optimize. Exactly.
Yeah, though
'cause you can have-
Bayonetta was mentioned before. Sorry, I'll be quick. And just I think one of the strengths of the sequel is that because Nintendo sort of took a chance on it and saved it, they ended up having a really polished game. And even though it was like really out of the Wii U's wheelhouse, it really worked. And like with the PlayStation taking a chance on Death Stranding, you know, it was divisive, but it's a must-have for some gamers, right? So I feel like these companies, when they're in a position of power, they're more willing to take chances. And I feel like that really pays out in the long run because then you have these legacy gamers who are like, you make games that I love, right? That other people don't.
Exactly. And that's one thing I think Microsoft has fallen short on ever since the 360. I mean, the 360 had a lot of good exclusive games that I can think of. But
like Tomb Raider's
like
not even exclusive now.
No,
so
I just
360 was also the first time a couple of things went there. Like Devil May Cry was never on an Xbox system. Resident Evil was never there. I mean, really, just anything Capcom did was not on Xbox before.
But then when you transfer over from the 360 to like the Xbox One, I mean, how many exclusive games can you name off me that are like must-haves?
I guess another
Señora Sacrifice. That is an amazing game.
So
Okay,
I guess
you got one.
Capcom on the mind like
that's
usual.
the only one I can think of because the rest of them are kind of just like they gave a bunch of money to a smaller studio and they're like, hey, we will make it an exclusive, and then it just kind of flopped.
Well, they knew how big the first game was, so they knew buying that company out, get them to make this amazing second game that's going to draw people in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of Xbox's problems is that it's lost a lot of its legacy exclusives. Like when you think of Nintendo, there's a brand that pops up right in your head immediately. Like Mario, Zelda, Metroid, Star Fox, like all this stuff. Like there's a bunch of classic stuff. And then with PlayStation 2, like obviously they kind of ended it, but like Uncharted and like all these other games, like there's a really distinct brand image. But with Xbox, like you think Halo, I think you think Forza, but then it's kind of like, well, Tomb Raider's not even exclusive anymore.
Tomb Raider originally started on Sony.
Yeah.
They even
but
lost Street Fighter, like Street Fighter 4, the Xbox 360 version was the tournament version for a little while, and they didn't even get 5.
Yep. I just don't know. Like I said, I get the idea that they're banking on their cloud service. I think there's no questions about that. But I think they also need to be looking at getting games that are going to drive people to buy that system, right? Because if they really don't have any exclusives, and I don't know if that's 100% true. I thought I read somewhere that they weren't going to do exclusives, but they might be just saying that they're not going to have only exclusives. Maybe they're going to have timed exclusives. I don't know. But if that happens to be true, well, I'll just keep upgrading my PC, buy the games on PC, and then buy a PS5, and then play the exclusive PS5 games that I want. Like, why would I ever buy the new Xbox then?
I feel like what they're going in the direction of like a really overpowered Ouya, right? Where it's like there's nothing genuinely unique about it. It's just a powerful bit of machinery for what it does that has like no actual reason to buy it apart from any other powerful bit of machinery. Like if you have a PC, then great, you basically have an Xbox.
Yeah. Not to mention talking about an exclusive PlayStation VR. Xbox will never do VR. PlayStation is going to continue to work on VR.
I will correct it on that. They said that they don't see any time for VR right now. That doesn't mean that they won't. It just means that they haven't currently, and that they're not currently working on VR. Well, I wouldn't say that they'll never do it. I'm just putting that caveat out there that they may eventually. They just aren't in the foreseeable future.
So you're saying they see links to VR? Yeah.
Well, they see VR, like Microsoft sees VR as big on PC. Why would they want to mess with that when they already have kind of a hand in that?
What they said when somebody questioned, actually, I think it was somebody questioned, I forget who it was, if it was the general, whatever his guy, I forget his name. they questioned him on VR, and his actual big staple for why they weren't looking into doing VR for Xbox is because the price they think is too expensive right now. It's too expensive to get into. Once the prices come down, I guarantee you they will jump into it.
Yeah.
However, by the time they jump into it, you're going to have PlayStation, who's already going to dominate that market because they're already working on a new one that we know of for the PS5.
Yeah.
And then on top
Well,
of
they
that,
have an
then you'll
entire
have the ones
generation.
for, yeah, then you'll have the ones for PC like the Steam VR and Oculus that, like, again, most people who have VR will have those.
Yeah, the
So-
biggest reason I think
Yeah.
people buy games or buy a system is because of its library, right? And if you let
Mhm.
Oculus, even in like PlayStation, like just establish these
Yep.
big libraries of compatible games, then you're kind of screwed if you're trying to jump into the market and you'll be like, oh, I have 5. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because PlayStation's already got like how many years of them learning how the PSVR works. They can
Mhm.
apply that to the VR too, so they're going to be leaps and bounds ahead of if Xbox jumps into that game.
Mhm. I totally agree. And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if that's also one of the factors that they decided not to jump into VR, is knowing that they can't keep up with the competition at this point. It's probably be too
Yeah.
expensive for them to invest in to have very little, return.
And the fact that the PlayStation VR, the current one, is going to be compatible with the PS5.
Yep, to be compatible. Yep. I actually don't have VR for it yet. Once the PS5 comes out, I do plan on getting the VR for it because I've seen enough unique games at this point to invest in it. Because let's be honest, like when VR first came out, it was a gimmick. There wasn't a lot
Oh, definitely.
there, but they've
So-
gotten a lot better at developing games for it. I mean, especially on the PC. I actually want to get a Steam VR for my PC. That would be sick. I mean, you have, Boneworks. You have the new Half-Life game that's being developed for it. Like those could
Well,
be
even one of
game
the
changers.
first VR games, Resident Evil 7 for PlayStation,
That's
that
true.
still holds up today.
Yeah,
Like
you're
it's
100%
amazing.
I
Yeah,
know
but
this is
Resident
kind
Evil
of
4
like
does
out of
too.
nowhere, but I'm actually reading up on Rainbow Six Siege becoming cross-platform for the consoles.
Interesting.
So
At launch, the Xbox Series X and the PS5 will have Rainbow Six Siege as cross-platform and cross-generational.
Interesting.
So I'm gonna set my little opinion on VR. It just makes me kind of sick. Like when I play it, I don't
no,
own
that's-
one myself, and like,
That's true for a lot of people.
yeah,
Yeah,
That's just
I think that's one of
funny.
PlayStation VR's strengths, though, because at least you're not moving as much. Like I feel like they Oculus overestimated how much space people have and how much people want to move when playing games.
Oh yeah, I don't have.
They've
much
gotten a lot
room.
better at that, though, to be honest.
So
Well,
my
the vast
setup
majority-
is very small, so I don't really have room to stand up and all that. Anyway, so like,
I was gonna say a lot of the newer systems, like Steam VR, or not Steam VR, I guess it is Steam VR. I forgot what they actually call their specific system, but you literally have the bases that you set up to dictate your play area. You can actually tell it, this is how big my play area is. So they've gotten a lot better at being able to do that. Now the Steam one, to be fair, is massively expensive because you have to buy the cameras that tell it the play area. So I think it's like $1,000 just to get into.
yeah.
But or something like that. It's like $500 or $7,000. Like it's something like crazy like that to get all the equipment that you need. But if you buy for example, the Oculus Quest, which isn't as good, it isn't as powerful, but it is its own standalone unit that does have its own small area of play, and you can play decent, VR titles. It's not gonna be as good as a VR plugged into your PC, but it'll be okay. But to get back on track, because we kind of went off on a VR, tangent.
I mean, I feel like VR is a very good topic to go on with this because
It
that's
is.
a selling point. Because
But I want to bring it
PlayStation
back
has
around to the consoles, right? I want to bring it back around to the console. So,
Okay.
my point was that if PlayStation continues to improve on that area where they improve upon the motion sickness that people get because they are finding ways to lower those problems. I know people who've owned original Oculuses that have gotten the new ones and have actually gotten better at not being motion sick. So there is ways that they are improving on that. So if PlayStation can continue to improve on that and continue to improve on their system, and Microsoft still has nothing, that's just another thing that PlayStation will have that'll push their system over Microsoft.
I mean, the big thing about Sony also is that they do have a niche audience already, and I feel like
Hmm.
Microsoft is starting to push a lot of theirs to PC, and I'm not sure if that's like a halfway purposeful thing so they can focus on that. Because keep in mind, Microsoft is huger than Xbox, Sony's huger
Yeah.
than PlayStation.
Yeah.
Obviously,
think-
Sony's been here
Actually,
since the
yeah.
90s. So I
That's
think
actually
they'll
really
be going
good.
a while.
That's a really good point because if you look at like overall profitability, Microsoft is doing pretty well regardless of Xbox, but Sony is pretty reliant on PlayStation. There's been a couple years where it was like the only profitable thing.
Mhm.
Well,
Um,
I think with Sony, you also got to keep in mind there's their TVs, the cameras, their movies kind of squander, but
Their cameras are also going pretty downhill. I
The
haven't
cameras
seen a
have gone
good-
downhill.
Yeah, I haven't seen a
Yeah.
single camcorder from Sony that has been good in operation.
Yeah,
Okay.
PlayStation's like a way bigger part of their business model. It's kind of that's what's successful for them.
Yep, that's been one of the big driving points.
yeah,
for
I
them.
know PlayStation is like one of their like top 3 or something, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm always a Panasonic guy with cameras.
Sorry, I've been always a Canon dude, but anyways.
This
buy
is the
very-
wrong war, right? All right, this is the wrong war.
Wrong war.
PlayStation
But-
versus Xbox right now.
The other thing is, I mean, obviously, Sony is one of the very biggest Japanese tech companies,
Mhm.
which, Japan has a lot of tech companies.
They do.
Uh,
And I mean, you can make the same argument though for Microsoft in America. They're one of the biggest tech companies. I
yeah,
mean,
so what I was about to say, because I'm saying Japan anyways,
oh,
all those
sorry.
Japanese games, like I said earlier, they're going to probably stay with Sony. And I do think a lot of them are also switching over to Nintendo. And I'm wondering if Switch and PlayStation are going to be a bit more competitive. I
Um,
think so.
I think Switch
Okay.
was smart with what they did. Like they're a completely different appeal, and they've kind of designed it in a way that it's entirely possible for someone to buy a Switch and also have a at-home console.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
They
that's, like, the
fulfill
best
different
thing about it.
purposes, right?
I think there'll be competition between Sony and Nintendo when it comes to the quality of their games, not the consoles directly.
I mean, I'll be honest.
Because,
The only genre
you know-
I think they're really competing now is RPGs, and I know
Yeah.
that is a very small audience. It's just one of the ones I'm a part of.
I'm
so,
part of that too, Roman. I understand.
Yeah,
Same here. Same here.
I'm a huge RPG lover. I love RPGs.
like obviously you got.
Heck, I have a Moogle tattooed on me.
That is,
Ah,
that is baller.
that is. How big are we talking?
It's about 3-inch.
Oh, okay, that's not okay.
All right,
Wait, which game is the Moogle based on?
From Final Fantasy 14, the MMO.
Okay, gotcha. See, really, what you need is a chocobo.
Okay, so going
Oh,
off
I'll
a
get
lot,
one.
My favorite Moogle design is the one from the Crystal Chronicles games.
Oh, that one's a good one.
I'm excited for when the
I actually-
online
on-
version comes out.
On a side note, for the Crystal Chronicles, I actually have a copy of that coming in that I'm going to be reviewing soon. So
Like,
All right,
Yes,
let's get back to the consoles.
but Crystal Chronicles was the first Nintendo Final Fantasy game
Uh-huh.
in years.
Nintendo is not a part of this argument.
but I think they should be if we're talking generational consoles, right?
I mean, the
The
big thing
Switch,
is,
the Nintendo has always released their new generation always a little earlier than everyone else.
this time
but
it was even
you're
bigger
still-
because the Wii U was such a failure, though.
Exactly, but you're still going to have the Switch competing. Like, I don't care what anyone says, they still are going to be competing against Sony's and Microsoft's. On top of that, especially if the rumors are true, which possibly this year we might get a Switch Pro, an even more powerful Switch, which I would be totally down for. But if that is true, then they are going to be directly competing in sales at Christmas against Sony and Microsoft. So I think they should be somewhat part of the conversation.
Okay. The Pro, if they release the Pro, then yes. But I feel like Nintendo at this moment in time, the people who want to buy the Switch, they are either already saving up for it or they've already bought it. It doesn't.
You're not wrong, but at the same time, when we're talking games, that should still be a factor, right?
It's a factor, but I mean, I feel like when we talk about the PlayStation 5 versus the Series X, it's more so like if we put these two in a room, who comes out the victor, right? They both seem like hardware-wise, they're going to be very, very similar.
But here's the answer, Nemo. We all know Nintendo won because everyone owns a Nintendo console.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I own like 5.
I mean, the other thing to keep in mind with Nintendo, unlike Microsoft and Sony, who have other things to fall back on.
Oh,
Nintendo
yeah,
is
this is
just consoles.
just
And-
straight up consoles and games.
Yeah.
Well,
Unless they
console
bring
like
back
Nintendo
on-
just has that legacy, right?
Yeah.
Like it has everyone's childhood, but it's also like they are kind of innovating in the game space. Like they have a lot of
Oh,
weird
100%.
stuff, but like they usually end up doing something like genuinely creative enough that it changes whatever genre they're in, right? Like Odyssey, like as much as you can, it revamped platformers, right? Breath of the Wild really revamped exploration games.
I mean, here's the other thing too. Even if we look at consoles, I mean, as much as people want to say that Wii U was a flop, and it was commercially, it still was innovative enough that they took that idea and made it a Wii U 2.0 called the Switch. Because let's be honest, the Switch is what they wanted the Wii U to be originally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can definitely see that. And when I first saw the commercial for the Switch, I was like, oh no, here we go again.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I thought the Switch was going to be a flop, and then
Oh, I thought so too, and then it just took off.
Mhm.
I think the idea of it being truly fully mobile, where the Wii U couldn't be, is what made it sell so much. Because it's basically a good way to put it is, well, why bring my 3DS anywhere? I'll just bring my Switch instead. You know?
Oh, definitely.
I am really excited to see what the ZX collection does with porting DS games. By the way,
I agree. So I actually am one of the weirdos who loves Nintendo and still hasn't bought a Switch yet. But I've been waiting for the Switch Pro because every time I turn around, I keep hearing rumors of the Switch Pro, and I'm like, I'll save my money.
Actually, I don't think they will though, because they want all the games to run on the base Switch, right? And I feel like that would be too tempting for some developers, because some of them have already been lazy, like with the NBA 2K games. Like they'll have massive amounts of extra data. You have to download SD cards, right? Like it's very possible, but I feel like it would people would get too lazy with it, right?
I thought the same thing, but then remember they did have the new 3DS that they had done, which did sell pretty well in comparison. Like it wasn't as big, but it still sold well. And then if you're gonna make that also comparison, you look at the PS4 to PS4 Pro. The PS4 can still play anything that works on the PS4 Pro. The Pro just works better.
Well, it's got the 4K, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're both way more powerful, right? Like I think you're talking about different echelons of power, right? Like with the PlayStation and PlayStation 4 Pro, I feel like it's more like graphical benefits and stuff. But like if you upgraded to Switch, like for it to genuinely, be an incentive to people, it would have to be significantly more powerful.
So if we're
I don't know
moving
if
to
I
4K
necessarily believe that. I don't think it has to be that much more powerful. But
Well, to make a
that's
difference,
just-
though.
Yeah, but I'm saying even then, if we're gonna look at like I said, PS4 to PS4 Pro, I mean, there isn't that big of a significant difference, not in my mind, anyways. I mean, it's big enough that you could be like, yeah, I want the PS4 Pro over the PS4, but at the same time, the PS4 can play all the PS4 Pro games. So that's all I'm saying is that I think they could do the same thing where they have the Switch Pro, which could be more powerful, correct? But I don't think it necessarily would hinder the Switch games at all.
Yeah, I think I
So-
worded it badly. Sorry, just like with the PlayStation, the benefits were mostly graphical, but I think with the Switch, most games just generally de-emphasize graphics, so I don't really see the point.
I think what they would do if they were to increase, I think they could actually do the graphical, but what they would do is make the dock more powerful or have the newer USB type that could actually transfer more data, and so that you could actually get close to 4K or upscale 4K from like 2K, something like that. I think they could actually do that with a Pro version.
So since we're supposed to be talking about next-gen consoles today, I want to bring up something because we were talking about 4K. Who here actually owns a 4K TV? Because I don't.
I do.
I do.
No.
I do.
Yeah. They're here's the thing, Roman. They're actually cheap enough nowadays that you could probably pick up a 4K TV for under $500.
Well, I got mine. It's a 42-inch 4K. It was $300.
4K is cheap enough now that it's actually Like, see, the thing is, I for the longest time I didn't pick up a 4K because I kept being like, oh, I gotta pay like $1,000 for a 4K TV. Nah, fam. Like, if you want an 8K TV, you gotta pay $1,000. But
Which-
And
apparently
speaking of
it's-
8K, speaking of 8K,
I feel like is like, why would you need that? Honestly,
but speaking of 8K,
future proof.
the PlayStation 5 is rumored to have 8K compatibility. I don't know about the Xbox.
So
but is it
the
worth it?
Xbox
Here's-
does have
Yeah, like, is there
8K,
actually a
the
difference that you
PS5
can
does not have
observe?
confirmed 8K.
Well, here's my belief on that. Here's my belief. If it is rumored, I think it will support 8K, but all I think it is it's going to be 4K upscaled. Because to have the amount of power you would need to properly get 8K, you would basically need to have double HDMI cables.
Okay, Games, let me ask you this. Because if we're talking about upscaling, how do I upscale my Sega Genesis to 8K? Because I really need that to happen. It's just not as crisp as I want.
Well, here's the thing: you would need
Sonic
to first.
is not fast enough. Please help
Well,
me.
okay, Roman. So you need to first get something called a FrameMeister, okay,
Mhm.
which is an upscaler. You then take your AV cables, plug it into the FrameMeister, which then outputs into an HDMI cable that then plugs into your 8K TV, and bam, you have now upscaled to 8K.
Will it make it like I have blast processing too?
It'll be blast processing 8K.
Oh man. What if the PS4 what if the PS5 or the Xbox Series S has blast processing?
If they call it blast processing, I think I will literally piss my I'll die laughing.
Well, that's
And
why
now somebody's looking it up. Blast processing.
we
Yeah.
don't know. See, what we don't know is that the Dreamcast 2 is coming, and it does have
Yeah,
blast
it's
processing.
not happening, bruh.
See, after they saw Shenmue 3, they were like, whoa, we need this on the Dreamcast 2. Shenmue 4 will be our exclusive.
Oh,
I don't think they could have a 4 because didn't 3 actually literally end the game?
32-bit.
I haven't played it yet.
The...
Exactly.
I thought it was gonna be like huge. No, it's
No, it's literally just
No,
it's the
blast
processor.
processing was a marketing term.
It was a marketing term. Yeah. But still was, let's be fair, still was like 16-bit and 32-bit. Like
Mm-hmm.
most people don't understand the differences of what any of that means.
No, and like, what was the company with the honeybee as their logo? What was their console? The TurboGrafx 16 wasn't.
Yeah, the
even,
TurboGrafx 16. Yeah.
wasn't even 16-bit with everything. It was like partially 6-bit, partially 8-bit.
Or you had the Jaguar, the 64-bit console, the first 64-bit console.
Oof.
The Jaguar.
Now, let me tell you, music on the TurboGrafx CD, perfect. Every game on the system, great music. Besides Fighting Street.
Oh, what
That
about
one's-
Roman? What about the Amiga?
We can ignore that. We're talking about the future today.
The Amiga 32-bit console. Oh god.
So
Was it the Amiga CD, was it the Amiga CD or whatever? Oh my gosh. I think it was
Okay,
a
bring it
travesty.
back to next gen stuff.
Alright, so
Fair
next
enough.
gen,
I wanna-
what is going to be the next gen Sonic game?
I want to talk about the controllers.
Okay. I think the controllers for the Sony is literally going to look like a PS4 controller, except for it's going to have back buttons on it.
Yeah,
They're
it's
gonna
going to
have
change
that
about as much
super
as their
light.
logo.
Yeah.
But the
pretty much.
haptic feedback, what is the haptic feedback? Like, we're going to be,
Oh, they're going to have that,
like,
obviously.
you know, but like, what do you guys think that's going to do with the games in the PS5?
It's going to be basically do the same thing it did with the Switch, right? It's going to have a little bit more responsiveness. It's going to allow you to feel a little bit more of actual, feedback of, like, for example, a good way to do it is like if you were playing a horror game, right, and you just could feel something stomping up behind you, right, and it's getting more intense on the vibrations as it gets closer to you.
Oh,
Stuff
do you
like
think-
that. That'd be
Do you
cool.
think we'll get a port
Or like-
of Senran Kagura Reflections?
No,
Okay. Have any of y'all played that?
no, but I know
No.
what it is.
I bought it with plans of doing a video on it, and then I wrote the script and just felt dirty.
You should feel dirty, Roman.
The Xbox Series X will actually have the Xbox One controllers with almost nothing changed.
That
And
does
you
not
really-
surprise me.
Yeah, they're not gonna
Yeah,
change the
not
controller at all.
surprised.
And I
Not
mean,
I mean,
it's
they've
not
hardly
that
ever
cool.
changed.
You don't
I was
say.
gonna say they've barely changed the controller since the 360. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, the difference between 360 and the one, when you pick it up, it definitely feels different. And I think it's because
Oh,
it's like a bulkier bottom, and also with some Xbox One controllers, they have back buttons.
yeah. No, 100%. You're right. It's just that the overall design hasn't changed. It's the same thing with the PlayStation controller. Let's be honest. There's been very little change from one to the next. The biggest change they made was having that touchpad on the front for the PS4,
trackpad,
which
yeah.
literally no one uses.
And then basically eliminating the select button.
Yeah.
But yeah, it always confuses me when a game like has the touchpad as an input. I'm
I
like, wait,
know.
what do I do? What is the icon for? It was, I don't know.
It's like, do you want me to touch it? Do you want me to push down on it? Because it has that too.
Honestly, the only time I've ever made any use out of that trackpad was a VR game where you had to flick it to shoot out a grappling hook.
Okay. The only
I
time
really
used that
was one time in Until Dawn where I had to turn on my phone. So I had
Oh,
to
yeah.
swipe right in order to turn it on. That's
Okay,
the only
the
time
times I use it the most is when I'm playing a PS2 game and they put the select button there.
You're
it's
not,
the worst.
you're right. Oh my gosh.
And it doesn't even work half the time.
Yeah, for real.
Also, if we're saying this, I really hate the share buttons. I like.
Oh, I hate the share buttons. I hate
Like,
those things. Please make it go
Everything
away.
has it now.
I can't say I hate it. I can't say I hate it because I stream and I do my videos for YouTube off my PS4, so I
That's
use
fair.
that every day.
See, for me, I hate it because the amount of times I am playing an older game, it's like press start, and I'm like, which one? Which button are we talking about? And then you press it, and then it takes forever for it to load, and then to find out just it's the wrong button. Ugh.
I know this one's on me because I can go buy a Pro controller, which I should, but I hate the shape of the plus and minus buttons on the Switch Joy-Cons.
That's fair.
Yeah,
Like,
that's fair.
and I should
Like-
just go buy a Pro
You should just buy a
controller
Pro,
'cause
but
That's
I
not
don't
fair
think
though.
it-
Like you shouldn't have to buy an extra
No,
controller
I
like out
agree.
of the box. And there are a lot of problems with because my brother has a Switch and like I have a
Mhm.
PlayStation, so we'll share. But like he does have a lot of problems with Joy-Con drift, and like that's not
Oh, yeah.
okay. Like I love Nintendo, but that's not okay out of the box.
Yeah,
I've kind of
No.
just been getting a little annoyed. 'cause
that's
I've been
that's the biggest
Astral
problem they had was the drift.
And like Astral Chain, now I'm a guy with big hands. My hands are pretty big. And Astral
yeah, I
Chain
know
is
that
just very intense Platinum Games action, and
Uh-huh.
I kind of need my big boy controller.
I know that feeling, my friend. I totally know that feeling.
They worked great for Mario, obviously. Puyo Puyo.
Well, there's a lot of games it works very well for, but unfortunately, there's also a lot that it does not work well for.
And obviously, for like Smash, I just use my GameCube controller.
Oh, of course. There's no question. Like, if you're not using a game controller, I think you're silly. But that's just me.
All right, we're heading towards the later end of this podcast, so
Mhm.
let's wrap up our thoughts. Give a consensus on which one, like even if you don't think one's gonna win, like what do you think about this whole conversation in general?
Well, I think it's an interesting one to have because I feel like they tend to release info about the consoles way before, or like at least say that, oh, we're doing this console right before they actually are ready to do anything. Like we're not going to see any actual info for a while. I don't know. PlayStation seems to like being secretive. So I think it's a fun conversation to have.
Yeah, and I mean, we still have the better part of the year before we're even going to see the consoles in stores. So
yeah, I was gonna say, I imagine we won't even see what a PS5 even looks like until when Sony decides to do their press conference after
I'm gonna give a bet.
E3. It's probably gonna be like
It's gonna be-
September.
It's gonna be a black box.
as long as it doesn't look like the
You know,
dev kit.
Roman. Here's the thing. I actually would be astounded if it's a gray box.
Ooh.
It's
What if
gonna be a
it's-
blue box to match their like just blue style that they always have.
What if they like blow us all out of the water?
actually be
and
cool
it's
with
like PS1 white.
Oh, I'd be down for that. I'm gonna be 100% honest.
Only
All of my
if
consoles
all-
are black right now. I need difference.
Okay, so all of mine are black except for my Wii, which is only used for GameCube games.
See, my GameCube is a silver one, so that's
I
the only
need
one
to
that's
just
different.
trade this out for a GameCube because then I can play GBA games on my TV because my Game Boy
Uh-huh.
Advances aren't
That's why I
working
got
too
mine
well.
for. That's what I got mine
Like
for.
I've had to open up and fix those GBAs too many times.
Oh, 100%. Anyways, I think it is definitely an interesting conversation to have between the Series X and the PS5. I can't tell you which one 100% is going to win, but I can tell you the one I'm going to buy, which is a PS5, and I might buy a Series X after I see what comes out on it, but it's not going to be a day one purchase for me.
I think it's going to come down to the price, backwards compatibility, and the exclusives that they have. That's going to be the biggest things. But like you said, I'm a Sony fan, so I will be going with the PS5 as well.
So I've always had like a 1 year rule ever since I got disappointed by the 3DS. So like
I know that feeling. I've had that with a lot of stuff too.
PS4 I waited a year, Wii U I waited a year, Switch I waited a little over a year. PS5, if it is backwards compatible with PS1 through 3 as well, I think I might get it at launch.
I've actually recently done the same thing as you. Mine was actually the PS3 I got screwed on, but that's besides the point.
PS3 I got it with Final Fantasy 13.
Yeah.
So, maybe even
But
worse.
I waited. I didn't get a PS4 until they came out with the Pro. Once they came out with the Pro, I bought one.
Same.
As I said, I don't even have a Switch yet. So
Yeah. You always
Xbox
wanna
I
be
got like
careful,
almost
though.
a year and a half after it released. Yeah.
Punchy, you're saying?
Oh yeah, you just always want to be careful because they're like with basically every console, there's always problems with the day one batch.
Oh yeah.
Like there's always something with the disk drives, or maybe they make a really loud noise, or
Yes.
the fans are
Yes.
off. Like literally every console.
I got a
Ring of
day one
Death.
Xbox
Yep.
Elite. Disk drive doesn't work anymore. But
Yeah.
I'm also on the fence. I don't know which one I'll get. I might get the PS5 for the Final Fantasy VII action, or maybe I'll stick with the Xbox side and get the Series just for the sake of I like the controller more.
Well, a day one thing that is not broken on me ever. This god dang PS2.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
It is
Those are
That's totally fair.
day one.
Yeah, most of
fat
those are pretty good.
PS2.
Actually, my GameCube day one's actually been still pretty up and working just fine. I've had to do a few minor repairs here and there.
I mean, like
Nice.
the failure rates for Nintendo and PlayStation aren't like terrible. Like the Xbox is way worse, especially the 360.
Oh yeah. The
But like
360
there's
was a
usually
travesty.
problems like
Oh man.
and even like companies that like Nintendo wouldn't fix dead pixels, right? There's a lot of problems with like whirring noises and stuff with PlayStation. I don't know. It like with newer consoles too, because there's like so many more components.
Oh yeah. I was gonna say my favorite Xbox console that actually never broke on me was my OG Xbox. That thing still works. I love it.
So you can still play Blinks 2 on it?
I can.
Okay. If
All right, well, we should probably log off here. So,
Yes.
Games After Prime, go ahead and tell us where we can find you online.
So you can find me on youtube.com, Games Past the Prime. I do reviews of older video games, like I've already talked about. I recently just got my stuff in to do Sony games, so I'll be doing Sony games, Nintendo games. So check out my channel if that sounds interesting to you.
All right, now Panji, where can we find you?
I'm also on YouTube. I do a lot of fun video game skits. I also do in real life stuff like shield surfing. So I have a lot of fun on my channel. Still sore, but if you could look me up, it would really be awesome. YouTube at Panji Ninja.
All right, now Roman.
I'm Roman. You can find me also YouTube, like most people here, at NovaZone TV. I kind of do videos about whatever I'm feeling. I just go with the flow. Main series is Okay Guys, Hear Me Out. So look that up and find me.
All right, now finally we got Sticks.
Yeah, you can follow me on YouTube. I do detailed walkthroughs 100% on Sticks Gaming, and I also have a Twitch, Crimson Sticks.
All right, and then there's me, Nemo Nobody. You can check me out at Nemo Nobody on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. Now, this is Domain Legion. You guys can check out some of Film Domain's newer podcasts and also some of Game Domain's podcasts. We just had I believe, a Star Wars podcast that got released a few weeks ago. Yeah?
It was a few days ago, I think.
Oh,
It was a few days ago, but they've
I
had a
guess I slept
couple.
for a very long time. There's been
Yeah.
a few. I think the first one was a few weeks ago. But either
Yeah.
way, you guys should definitely go check those out. See you in the next one.